Shalom, everybody. So at the end of World War II, the world was in shock as it had discovered the horrors of the Holocaust that had come from one of the most educated countries on the planet. And here we are in 2023, plagued by the very same virus. Please consider subscribing, thumbs up, and stay with me as we face the beast together. Depending on how you look at the whole thing, the Holocaust took place only 80 years ago, or already 80 years ago. Within the scope of human history, it wasn't a long time, but when we look at man's lifespan, it helps us understand that almost all those who have gone through the horrors of the Shoah, or the catastrophe in Hebrew, and survive it, are now gone simply because of old age. Only a handful of first-hand survivors remain around us today. Most of them, at least in their 90s. Very soon, nobody will be able to hold someone's hand and turn their arm to discover the infamous tattoo of doom, the death number of the camps. The voices of the Shoah are fading away, while the voices of historical revisionism are shouting that the Holocaust was either grossly exaggerated or simply never happened. That's where we are today. Its memory is in the hands of family members of Holocaust victims, sons and daughters of Holocaust victims. That is why I continue to tell the story of how my mother was hidden in the south of France in the free zone after her father was taken by the Gestapo and sent to be murdered in Auschwitz. And I will keep telling that story as long as I can. Some people realized early on that the horrendous organized genocide of the Jewish people had to be documented. One of these people was General Dwight Aenar. He did something that was very important. He understood the importance of documenting and remembering the Holocaust. The minute that he walked inside the camp at Ohrdruf in Germany, as he visited this sub-camp of Buchenwald with Generals Bradley and Patton, he started to realize the magnitude of what he was witnessing and immediately wrote a letter to the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, at the time, General George Marshall, in which he said, Eisenhower said this, and I quote, "The things I saw beggar description. While I was touring the camp, I encountered 3 men who had been inmates and by one ruse or another had made their escape. I interviewed them through an interpreter. The visual evidence and the verbal testimony of starvation, cruelty, and bestiality were so overpowering as to leave me a bit sick. I made the visit deliberately in order to be in a position to give first-hand evidence of these things if ever in the future there develops a tendency to charge these allegations merely to propaganda." Close quote. Wow. As the story goes, at some point during the visit, General Patton had to excuse himself so that he could go into a private area and throw up. Despite the commendable efforts made by Eisenhower and others, the Holocaust increasingly runs the risk of being relegated into some obscure corner of history. Even worse, some will soon believe that it simply never happened. This is also why part of the process was for the US military to force as many Germans as possible to witness the horrors that had taken place around them. Perpetrators and bystanders alike were faced with the results of evil in their midst. Now, General Eisenhower would be very angry and probably disgusted by today's younger generation. Their lack of interest and or lack of knowledge of the Jewish catastrophe is, in essence, helping those who wish to make it disappear from history. Some schools barely touch the subject in fear of hurting the feelings of other people groups. In the meantime, the Shoah, the Holocaust, is slowly being erased, one person at a time, one memory at a time, one testimony at a time. So now fast forward to October 7th, 2023, when the world became again a witness to the horrors of the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel. We now know that their attack was straight out of the Nazi playbook. Actually, it was more like a merging of Nazi and ISIS on steroids. Most people have been unable to watch any of the gruesome footage gathered by the IDF. How are human beings able to perform such torture on people, including very young children and the elderly? Moreover, how can anyone in their right mind even question that what Hamas did was inhuman and clearly belonged to the category of crimes against humanity? I don't know. Queen Rania of Jordan just recently has been questioning the beheading of Israeli children by Hamas in an interview with Christian Amanpour on CNN. Wow. Colleges and universities in the USA and other parts of the world have rallied against Israel and in support of Hamas, putting many Jewish people at risk for their lives. In 2023, friends, this is like 1933 all over again. We have turned an important corner in modern anti-Semitism, I'm afraid. The beast has been globally unleashed, and it is on a brutal rampage for Jewish lives. To counter the irrational pushback from the media and other organizations and even governments, Israeli authorities had what I call an Eisenhower moment. They decided to show a group of journalists a 43-minute compilation of the horrors committed by Hamas on October 7, so that they would not forget. Very much like what Eisenhower did in 1945. It is so sad that such an event would even have to be held. But the world must know, as difficult as these images are to look at, we must not turn our heads away, lest we become the new bystanders of the 21st century. If this is the new normal for Jewish people worldwide, then it must become the new normal for Christians as well. And as such, we must not be silent. Thousands of Hamas sympathizers have gathered all over the globe to rally against Israel in the biggest display of double standard we have ever witnessed. The Jewish people need to know that there are Christians who are ready to commit to their rescue and safety. It's important now more than ever. It's critical. Where is the church when pro-Hamas people are chanting on the streets, "From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free," or "Gas the Jews"? Where is the church? The world is being split in two as we see pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian factions take sides. To be sure, not all Palestinians side with Hamas. Of course not. Many of them just want to live in peace. But the lines are being blurred by biased reporting and double standards. Add to that the fact that younger generations easily buy the lies about Israel because they have no clue about history. They are gullible victims of the propaganda spewers. That's what they are. Consider this. 63% of millennials and Gen Z did not know that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. 48% of millennials and Gen Z could not name one single concentration camp. 56% of millennials and Gen Z were unable to identify Auschwitz. 11% of millennials and Gen Z believe that Jews caused the Holocaust. The Jews caused the Holocaust. And 49% of millennials and Gen Z have seen Holocaust denial on social networks. It's absolutely horrendous. Israel needs us. The Jewish people needs us. And now is not the time to sit on the fence. Ian Kershaw, a great historian, once said the road to Auschwitz was built by hate but paved with indifference. To which I add, the road to another Holocaust is being rebuilt by hate, but now paved with wokeness and apathy. Let's not be silent, friends. Until next time, Shalom.